Well, first of all, welcome to the Warriors Raised podcast. Craig, it's an honor to have you here, and I'm excited to see where this goes today. And yeah, I'd love to start with just like if you could share a brief overview of your experiences in the military,
Mhm.
and yeah, we'll start there, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so I'll condense that down into like a brief sentence, and we can kind of go into that more if you want, because it's obviously quite a long time. But the way I describe my Navy career was three medals, two wars, and a sinking ship, and that always kind of is like, huh, especially like the sinking ship side. So I was in there for like 13 years, from the age of 16 to 30, and my first 3 years. By the age of 19, had been deployed to the Middle East, involved in the Afghanistan after 9/11 and Iraq when that happened. And then after those deployments, I flew out to Australia to join a ship that was on a world tour, which is like the cream of the crop. Is like you get to go all over the world. And I was on it for 10 days, and we crashed into a rock off Australia and was sinking. And then spent the next 2 weeks grounded on a beach, pumping water out and living on rations. So that, in a nutshell, is the peak of my Navy career.
Okay, this is a we could spend 4 hours just
I
easily.
know,
Like, where do we start?
I know.
Uh, what's it like for you not being in the Navy anymore?
Um, Life's, I say, much better and different. I think I'm not really that want to look back and just be constantly talking about the old days. They were good, and I do that with some of my friends I'm still in contact with. But to start with, it was very challenging. Not initially, because I was just coming out and just kind of like ran straight into adapting into the well, air quotes, real world. And I was very lost, because you have this big sense of purpose and mission and identity, and for me, still probably the best community ever, because you do war training with these guys. You go through all your training, you live together, you work together, you go through challenges together, you go out and get drunk together, and all of a sudden I didn't have that, and I didn't understand back then what was going on, of like why I was kind of like spiraling. I didn't really know I was spiraling, and I kind of hit quite a dark patch. My whole life kind of blew up, and that kind of cracked me open and started me in kind of like a more of the internal journey, so to speak. Because obviously the military is very external, kind of discipline, mission, mindset, all this sort of good stuff. But I came out and I was like really struggling in my relationships and finding my place again. Felt very lonely, even though I was surrounded by people that love me and all this, and just very lost. And to be honest, that was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me, because I was so uncertain and I didn't have a clue what was going on.
Mhm. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine it being a really just such a dramatic shift to, like you say, come back to the real world and also be surrounded by people who perhaps don't relate or like haven't had similar experiences to you. I don't know. It sounds like you had some friends who you were in the Navy with, like
Yeah.
continued, but yeah, it's like a huge adjustment. But,
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one really, I say that was like the identity crisis. Just like, I don't know who I am anymore without all of that. And then, but not having any, no, well, not thinking that I had any tools to deal with that. And but so every time I kind of fell into like a dark place or something, it's like this default kicked in, which was because I was like, well, what do I know how to do? And I'm like, oh, okay, the military side of me kicked in, and I'd kind of like just fall back on that, and kind of I'm gonna, oh, hang on a minute, I've actually got some stuff here, and I can use this, but not in the same way. I need to fish through all of this to find out what was useful, what I need to leave behind, and then repurpose it for my life and direction now. And that's when I had like an epiphany of just like, even though I still found it really hard, but at least I had kind of tools and like years of experience into being able to kind of like sort myself out. And then it clicked for me of like, well, okay, I'm struggling and I'm like the military dude just and all this stuff. But what do guys do that haven't had any of that experience, haven't been in these environments, haven't been around like groups of men kind of doing challenges and like you're constantly training and upskilling and like all this leadership and camaraderie and all of this. And I was like, oh shit, they must really like really struggle because it's like you need to have a default to fall back on because everyone has hard times and challenges, and that's kind of what really clicked and hit home for me.
Mhm. Do you remember a moment in that time where you like felt like you had your feet back underneath you, or you felt like you had kind of arrived back in the quotes real world and felt comfortable there, or are you still waiting for that moment?
No, no, no. It was no, definitely that was a long time ago now. So it'll
Yeah,
be
I,
worried if
I
I
didn't want to
still
make
wait
any
for that. Yeah, yeah,
assumptions.
yeah. No, I think it was when I started with my first coaches. Um, I started with my first coaches, and it's a very actually specific moment where a big shift happened for me when I went out to a retreat in Cyprus at my coach's house. And one of the mornings, we all got together in a house towards the end of it, and we were kind of sat around. It was kind of like, what's going on for you today? What's been coming up over so far over the last few days? And I could just feel like this massive boulder just coming up and up and up inside as you're going around, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose it here. And when it got around to me, I just like just real ugly, hysterical crying. Just had these like obviously a lot of repressed emotions over a long time. Just came to the surface and came out. And and after that, like I had so much clarity in terms of like what I was going to do when I go back, and like I was like it was weird, this big emotional release, and then just this clarity of okay, I don't want to stay in the UK. I don't want to stay in my hometown. I'm miserable. I've had all this life experience. I've got all these skills and all these tools, but I'm not using them at the minute, and I'm kind of feel like I'm going backwards. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna tell my landlord I'm gonna give up my tenancy at the end of this term. I'm gonna sell all my shit, and I'm gonna go to Malaga in Spain because I'd researched Malaga and was like, okay, it's lots of adventure, lots of outdoors. It's by the sea, it's sunny. I'm like, cool, let's just give that a shot. No real plan, just kind of very. I was still in military mode quite a lot then as well, so no real plan. I'm just like, it was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Is like, it doesn't work out. I come back, I regroup, and then I just go again. So and I did that as soon as I got back. I text my landlord because I'm like, I know the fear process of like if you sit in the fear too long and doubt and overthinking, you'll talk yourself out of it. So I was just kind of like taking action straight away, like kind of burning the boats and sent them a message saying I'm finishing. Started selling all my stuff, gave a lot of stuff to my brothers, um, gave up the house, and then ended up driving a few months later, driving over to Spain with a few £1,000 in the bank, and to be honest, not really much of a plan. And I'm still here, so it kind of worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What you said that you joined when you were 16. I'm
Mm.
curious, how did that happen? What was
Okay, so that one was I watched the movie Under Siege with Steven Seagal when I was like 8 years old with my dad, and I don't know why, but that I think a lot of guys do that actually. They see some movie and are like, I want to go and do that in like the military or whatever. But I saw that and I saw like this badass chef in the kitchen that was like, uh, just kicked everyone's ass, saved the day, etc. And it was just real cool and calm. And I was like, I want to do that. And I kind of forgot about it. I didn't even realize that was the thing until until years later, and it was just one of those things that come up when you kind of like you're doing that work on yourself, and then it was just like this memory came up of like, holy shit, it's just like had this memory of like watching Under Siege and like connection to actually joining the Navy as a chef. So obviously I'd seen the movie when I was 8, and it was just like obviously kind of never thought about it again until I was leaving school. And one of my friends actually was going to the careers office to look at joining the Navy. And I said, oh, I'll come along with you. And obviously, if you go to a careers office, they'll snag you and try and drag you in. And I kind of like the look of it. So I went back with my mum and looked at a few trades. And I was actually enjoyed cooking at school as well. So I was just kind of like a bit clueless at 16. I was like, I'll just join as a chef. But it was the best decision for me. And that's kind of how it came about. So a weird later on in life realization of like how that actually came about of watching Under Siege.
That's really neat. Yeah, it is wild how those things. Yeah, I can relate to that and have seen those connections for many people of like a little seed that was planted quite
Yeah.
young, where you're maybe connecting with something that feels like the path for you.
Yeah, it's weird when you're young, isn't it? I think because things drop in, I think a lot easier, and it's like it could be something like you have a teacher at school that kind of like says something to you, or is a kind of like a role model for you, or you see it in a movie or something like this, and kind of like how it can really impact your path that you take.
Yeah. Yeah, also, and I also think, like, I mean, as a mom watching my kids and who they are now, um, was really evident even when they were toddlers. Like there were little pieces that were clues, that they were giving in their statements. I remember one of my sons, he was like maybe 3 years old, and he was like, "When I grow up, I'm only going to ride horses." Like it was this like declaration that he made, and he
Yeah.
was really adamant about it. And he doesn't only ride horses, but he's currently building a truck that's going to like be mostly mechanical. He's like rebuilding I call it the Frankenford, but he's like that that desire of like I'm only going to drive horses is still a lot like his. He's sort of like a modern cowboy, you know what I mean? So I think
I
there's
like
like these
it.
little things when they're little that you see that are clues to who they're going to be. So I
Yeah, it's weird how they come about. Is it have you got all boys as well, haven't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Is it free? You got three boys,
I
is it?
have three, yeah.
Yeah, three boys. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. So you feel well looked after and protected.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And even when they were little, it was like that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
very,
awesome.
yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious because you gave us that like one sentence of three medals, two wars, and one sunken ship. Did I get that right?
That's the
Yeah.
one. One sinking ship. It didn't actually sink.
Okay. Okay.
Just saved it.
Yeah. It's so vast, but is there anywhere in there a story that you want to share today? I would love to hear like a story where that just made a big impact on you, where you felt perhaps a great connection with your team.
I think probably the biggest thing really is from the sinking ship. Again, it's like it's taken me years to really dissect all of my time and like experiences from there because you're not conscious of what you're doing. You're just like, oh, it's just your job, and you get on with it. And like my self awareness wasn't as high then, but and it has a big thing to what I do now as well. So it's this being on a sinking warship that hits rocks and you literally I was in bed at the time, and like then you get hear this massive thud and you feel it, and you're like, "What the fuck is that?" It's like, "What's going on?" And then like you get another one, and then like something's wrong, so you jump out of bed, and then guys start rushing in, and you can just hear water when the door opens, just like like rushing in, and the way everyone's just like, there's no one really speaking. You're just like you're in automatic. You're getting all your gear on. You go into your station, your battle station, and you're going off putting out fires. People diving into compartments, closing them off. You're putting up like shoring, which is wooden scaffolding to stop the bulkheads from buckling and exploding into other compartments in like engine rooms and stuff. And like, but all the time we're doing it, we're kind of like cracking jokes and having a laugh as well, which people think that's bizarre. Like my girlfriend Hannah, she thinks I'm a nutcase because I'm like that's one of the best experiences of my life. She's like, "What is wrong with you?" But it's it's it was also a lot of fun. But what I take from that now and what I use as well is like so I work with men in like in high stakes positions. You know what I mean? Like high level leaders, like high net worth guys that have got like they've built empires. But what doesn't happen is they don't train for what they've got to hold and the high stakes and the pressure that comes with that. And a lot of leadership in civilian life, to be honest, is not great. It's pretty rubbish, and especially at that level. And kind of like what I equated to that was where I found that quite easy to deal with people. I'm like, oh, that's easy. Just we'll just do this or we'll work on this. And then like to me, it was like super simple. But
Mhm.
obviously, I'm like, well, how are these guys at this level like not knowing this? And I'm like, well, duh. It's just like you didn't, you've been in the you've been on a ship that's crashed into rocks, and like you've been in like battle zones, and you've done all this training. And that was the thing. It was like you're constantly training and training for like the worst case things that can happen, like flood training, firefighter training, like chemical attacks, all of this sort of stuff, and you're constantly doing it, and it's a pain in the ass. Like nobody, like everyone's like complaining about it. Everyone's busy. You got like high stress jobs. Is like you always got stuff to do, and then they throw in these war trainings and damage control, and you're always going on courses and stuff like this. And it's they're made to be as real as possible. So like the flood training is actually in this big hydraulic unit that's like the mock-up of like three decks of a ship, and they take you through it, and like you got these different kind of damages done to the ship from torpedoes or whatever. And what they do then, they give you the training, they throw you in, and then like they literally fill it with water, turn the lights off, and it's like it's moving around. So it's literally is as real as you can get. And this is the thing, it's like that high level training, so that when or if the thing that you never think is going to happen actually happens, is just like it's automatic response, it's a default. So even though there'll still be like stress, and this is a thing about leading or performing under stress, is like even though there's still a lot of stress, like way more than people you'll get in business. You know what I mean? Is like you're sinking, and like there's instances where people could actually like lose their lives, but you're still like performing at a very high level and cracking jokes and having a laugh, because it's just like you just falling back to your system. And it's one of those, I don't really like motivational quotes at all, but this is more of a system quote. It's like is you don't rise in like in times of chaos or stress. Is like you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training, or you fall to your systems. And and that's one of the big things that is like I use as principles, and why is you should always be preparing, always be training, and kind of have that as like a mentality or a lifestyle, because shit's going to happen to all of us. Like shit hits the fan, right? So who are you when the shit hits the fan? And especially with guys, I think because of the ego that we have, is we think, oh, this is what I'd do in that situation. And it's like it's most of it's bullshit, because it actually, when you add stress and you add pressure into that, is just like you are not the same person, and is like you're gonna react in a way that you don't know. And most of that is like with chaos is going to be in stress response, is like your decision making goes out the window. It's just like you don't know what you're doing, you get delirious, all these things, and then like it's bad things happen. And I see this a lot in leadership and high stakes. And a lot of it is just like he's like you train systems and install systems internally that are equivalent to whatever your mission is, so to speak, or whatever your stakes are. And it's exactly the same. It doesn't matter if it's a sinking warship or you're on deployed for months in a war zone, dropping troops off or whatever, or business. It's like it's all the same. You just transfer them over, and that, to be honest, is like the by far the biggest thing that I took away, and again didn't realize till years later from actually working with these guys, that it's probably the most important principle. that I come across, and it's like we see a lot of guys that are like they might be killing it in business, but house tanked. They give up all of their personal habits because they're the first things to go in stress because it's, men, we sacrifice ourselves is very noble. But then it's like, well, everyone else gets a shit version of you then. And like, then it's obviously that impacts the family. It impacts your decision making and leadership in business, your health tanks. And then so you're kind of in more of a slow decline rather than actually kind of installing systems where you can, like say, reach your potential, but where you can, I suppose, you can handle everything without having to sacrifice one area. And that's what like, I see most guys doing is like one area gets sacrificed, one or two areas get sacrificed.
Mm. Yeah, I've heard this. Thanks for sharing that. I've heard this theory that, well, first of all, that of course men are like able to handle a lot more stress before it becomes negative or like
Mhm.
impacts negatively than women. Like that's how you guys are designed. But I've heard this theory that there's healthy stress, as in I guess what you're speaking to, where it's like you've trained for it and that's why you're making jokes even though the ship is sinking and you're in because you know what to do.
Yeah.
And then I've heard it sort of defined as like that being like a healthy stress, and then when it becomes unhealthy or like traumatic for people is when it's like they're not trained for it, they're not ready, like it's like more than, and it's like I think that, sorry I'm not really expressing this very clearly what I'm trying to
I know
say.
what you mean.
I think that like healthy stress is so important in terms of like our own individual evolution, like that, finding that line. Like if we don't have enough challenge, that can be also very like decline oriented. You know, we need that a certain amount of challenge. I guess I'm
Yeah.
curious. Or sorry, go ahead.
No, no, finish. What was your curiosity?
Well, I'm curious in your trainings, like starting at 16 and moving through with a group of men. Did you feel like the the level of intensity was like right for the group, or were there people who were like, oh, this is too much, or I don't know, I don't really even know, I'm just like trying to imagine the experience.
Okay. Well, I think the structure and the system of the military is fantastic because obviously it's for me it's like it's the oldest one and it's the one that's been tested at the highest level for the longest period of time. So I'm like, for me that's like gold standard. And then you've got like um, things like sports performance as well. So I think things that are very action based. Um, but I think with that, like that's why you have like basic training. Everyone does the same training. It kind of weeds out the people like this isn't for you because it's standards, right? So it's just like where okay, people don't make it through training. You get people that drop out or get kicked out. And then you've got continuous training that goes on, and you've got leadership training, all this sort of stuff. So there's these all these things are in place for that very reason is to like hold a standard because of the level of high stakes or risks that you've got and that you're going to be working in. So again, it's like that thing is like it's like train and prepare for the mission you're going to face and like the worst things that could happen within that. Um, I think for me personally, is just like I actually what I look back at it is now is very different. Was that was the best thing for me at 16 years old. I was a bit like getting into trouble a lot, and like I think my mum was very grateful that I was going off in the military. She was very adamant, is like you go and let's help pack your bags and get you down there. But it very much helped shaped me because it made me realize at a very young age of like things that I was capable of. Because it's like you're put in an environment that's kind of given to you, and it's you have to go and do all these things. You don't have a choice, so you've got to do them, and like that's really useful. And I think people again don't curate their own environments for that. And like people talk about discipline quite a lot, and it's like I know it's like it's sexy, and people talk about discipline, it's important, but there's easier ways to do that as well. Of like, and this what I take from the military is like, well, because I struggled with that after, and it's like, well, if you curate your environment and structure to make it where you kind of have to do these things, and eventually then they kind of kind of become a bit of your identity and just who you are. And then like again, you have a higher standard, you have a default that you fall back to that you don't drop below. And stress has a big part of that because again it's you need to learn to handle stress. As like you were saying, there's a stress threshold that kind of like blows you out, and like people might call burnout or whatever else comes from that. But it's like again, it's using stress to actually kind of make you resilient, kind of mental toughness, be able to like handle the situations you're going to be in. And I think with the stress side of things, a lot of people look at the military and they see this. They're just like, I think they've watched too many movies where there's like drill sergeants shouting in your face and like trying to break you and like punish you and that. It's not actually like, I don't know what it's like in the US. That might be a bit more the US. Like the UK's more humor and sarcasm and you're taking a piss out of each other. And I just think people have seen too many movies with that. Because the the stress side of things is what do I want to say with that? Like you said, it's like there's good stress and then there's kind of stress that kind of blows you out, but like is installing stress into your own life basically, and choosing stress. And people think, well, why would you choose stress? It's like I'm stressed enough as it is, and it's like it's not you stressed enough as it is because you don't have a good tolerance for it. And this is what I was going to say that I forgot was that it's people think from like the movies that they're trying to break you, and they're actually not. It's actually that you take people to a point that's like an edge that I would call, and look where you find out where their edge is and then you kind of like you train them like from that edge and build them up. And that's what a lot I do with my guys. I take guys to like the Arctic and in the mountains as well because I like you can't teach this stuff just sat behind a screen or in an office or in a boardroom. You've got to get your ass out and you've got to do things physically and mentally that you got to put yourself to the test and like find out where that edge is. And everyone's different, and it's like, and with guys, you have to tell them this because you think, well, I'm not as good as that person or this or like I'm rubbish, and it's like it's not about that. It's like you are at where you're at, and like, but you need to know that because you could be underplaying that, and you'll suffer and struggle because you're actually not using your capacity that you've got now, and you could think that you actually have more than you do, and like and then that's not great because then when something comes along and it like really fucks you over, it's just like and you're not prepared for that because you thought you were better than you were. You need to find that out as well, so it's really finding out where that edge is, and then you kind of build foundations around that and then just do that boring consistent like monotonous stuff that doesn't hit your dopamine, and like there's no shiny stuff going on, and just constantly build that over a long time. And that's where things start to get easier, and like where you can laugh and then make jokes when like you're plugging up holes in a sinking warship.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's whatever it is, there's so much value in environments like that where you really just get to see exactly where you're at. And ultimately it's like you versus yourself in everything, right? And I don't know, I grew up tree planting. So like every summer we'd go tree planting. And it's an environment that like not everybody survives in. Like the first few weeks, there's always a handful of people who are
Yeah.
like, oh no, this is not for me. I don't want to sleep in a tent. I don't want to work hard all day. I don't like bears and I don't like mosquitoes. And I'm out, but it's really quick. And then the rest of the season is like you see people really thriving and pushing their own edge. And
Mm.
it's people get paid per tree. So there's like incentive to do your
Sure.
best. And then jujitsu being another environment where it's like the mats don't lie. Like it really doesn't matter
Yeah.
what kind of day you had or what your background is or who you are or nothing. It's just like you get on the mats and you start training, you're gonna know exactly where you're at, like in that moment in your life, in that specific day. It's really cool. But I think that in the way that our society is currently set up, there aren't a lot of experiences like that for especially like as a mom of teenagers. Well, my oldest
Yeah.
son is 23 now, but like there's not a lot of that. So I'm always uh it's always interesting to hear about people who like yourself who like went at a young age and had this experience like away
Mm.
from your family. And in your I'm curious, in your family, where are you? Like, are you the oldest, youngest, middle?
I'm the youngest of three boys.
Yeah.
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 So
And
I got beat uh, as a young lad until I came back from like military training, and then like, hey, bro, how's it going? We're best friends now because I was not now I'm the biggest out of the three.
yeah, I know lots of groups of three brothers who can relate to that
Yeah,
story. Yeah.
yeah, you've got a set.
Yeah. Actually, my youngest son was telling me just the other day that when he was little, that was like he would think that in his head, like, when I get older, I'm going to be bigger and
Yeah,
stronger,
it
and then
is.
you're going to pay.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. It is good. There's a thing with that as well. You know what I mean? Because I come from and this is obviously like related to a lot of work I do with guys as well. But I come from a big family of men. Like my dad was one of five boys from like Glasgow in Scotland, which is quite a kind of like a rough place to grow up back in when he was there. And then like a lot of so I had a lot of uncles and family, Scottish family that were men. I'm one of three boys. One of my brothers has got three boys, and the other one's got one girl. But like, and then obviously being in the military, which is predominantly men, that actually was really important um, for me. And I think when I left, and even like nowadays, with obviously all the crazy stuff you got around masculinity, nowadays it's like it kind of because I was around it so much, it kind of gave me a really good sense in both ways, good and bad, a good sense of kind of like of who I was and kind of like what it kind of meant for me to be a man and like the masculinity, which gave me a good nose for bullshit when I left, and even like nowadays, and like being okay to kind of like being self assured in yourself as a man, because like a lot of men aren't, a lot of men aren't sure, like like what is it to be a man, like nowadays. And it's like you get all these messages telling you what you should be, you shouldn't be, and all of this. It's confusing for guys, so that's like a lot of guys are lost. But I think that really helped keep a thread for me of consistently working on myself, which is I always am. That is, I could kind of be like, yeah, no, that's not right, or I'm not listening to that. I'm good with this. Like I know who I am, and that was really helpful. And because I've seen a lot of the other side as well, because in the military there's a lot of like alcoholism. Like I was a big cheater and womanizer and all this sort of stuff as well, and like had a lot of shame around that. So it's kind of like is really working on those parts that weren't in my values after leaving, and then like keeping what was good. And um and then that again, that was my foundation, so I'm eternally grateful for that experience, and like gave me a foundation to build on.
mhm. Yeah, that's it. That's interesting, especially like in the time we live in where like everyone, but especially like young people are constantly bombarded, like you said, with messages of like, what does it mean
Mm.
to be a man or what does it mean to be a woman? And it's like it's just endless, right? And there's not really it's mostly up here and not really embodied experience, right? There's a lot of it's dialogue and like people talking about it, but not
Yeah,
actually like being in an environment where they get to experience themselves, in that way. Like, I don't know. I loved being like starting motherhood young was really good for me. Like, it was just a very like grounding experience, and very thankful that like I didn't wait to have kids, or for me personally it was great
yeah,
because I think it's so easy to like go in other paths or directions, but yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like again, it's both for you as well as a mum of three boys as well. I think sometimes I imagine I'll obviously ask you that is just like is where like what do I do as a mum of three boys, is just like what do they need that's different, and they do need things that are different, and I think sometimes that's hard for women to sometimes understand, even like in relationships, like with Hannah. Sometimes she doesn't understand things for me, but then obviously I explain it because I know that and understand that, and then like she kind of gets it. But like even things like aggression, do you know what I mean? Where she's like, it's like, oh, like he's like, it's there's a little bit of fear sometimes, I think, with women around males with like aggression. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, no, aggression's good for men and that, and like even like anger and stuff if it's directed well and it's controlled. But a lot of men don't have that, so they repress it, and then they kind of become like overly soft and like and suffer. But so it's like this, it's like, your boys probably beat the shit out of each other, right? Like aggressive testosterone when they were kids. Like rough housing is really important for boys. It's like where you're fighting with each other. And like Hannah's like, she used to sit with her sister and color in a coloring box for hours, just like nice and quietly in the corner and stuff. And she's just like scared when I tell her these stories of like what me and my brothers used to do. And she's like, oh my God, that sounds horrendous.
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely been many moments where I've like stepped in and then been like, oh, maybe that wasn't necessary. I mean, my kids weren't super rough on each other, but there were things that like were definitely, I was like, that seems a little too intense to me. And like I would, step in or whatever. And then even now, my youngest will tell stories and it's like he just tells them with such a big smile on his face. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
it's very different than, and even observing like um like in the jujitsu world as well. It's like, guys who are like best friends will just like go as hard as they possibly can at each other and then be like, oh, that was awesome, and like I have that with a few women I train with, but it's different, like because it's that environment, like for the most
Yeah.
part. um yeah, I've learned so much from them, like from my sons, and like observing their dynamics. I also got to spend some time working with my brother who runs a big construction crew. And it's like
Yeah.
construction, it's like a pretty rough crowd, like
Yeah.
there's like, but really it's also very diverse. Like there are, some guys who are really rough around the edges and some who are more like refined or whatever. But seeing that dynamic, seeing the leadership and seeing, my
Yeah.
brother leading at times where I'm like, wow, you really need to be that harsh, like, and it's just like, it's also just like really not my world. I'm like there
Yeah.
as an observer. I mean, yeah, I have a tool belt on and I'm like doing some fencing or something, but
Yeah.
like it's yeah, I think that is something that's like often really misunderstood. And yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's true. Like you're saying, like, when you're saying about your brother there, 'cause, oh God, you need to be that harsh with someone. But it's like, it's when you got a group of guys, and I get that because construction, military, it'll be a similar type of it because it's a tough environment. But like and I think this is really a good thing of like, okay, how do we perform so well in like the military as well? And a lot of it's communication. It's just so direct because you can't afford to like pussyfoot around and like, oh, make sure, I don't offend anybody or hurt someone's feelings is like, and yes, there's parts of that as well, but it's like, but there's such a higher tolerance in the military for that. And like the way you talk to each other is just like, you think like you hate each other, but it's not. And in the clearer communication and being super direct, you just valued that of each other because you just like just get to the point. And like I really struggled with that when I left because I was like, like just super direct and to the point because I was just being that way. And then I realized it's like, oh, a lot of people are like, why are people being all funny and like getting all like butthurt or like or sensitive or you can't say that and stuff. I'm like, why not? It's like, what's the problem? And that's part of what I struggled is like, am I too intense? Am I like that of too much? Is just like, am I an asshole? Like, what is it? Is it me or is it them? Like, what is it? But what I found was the more I kind of dulled myself down with that, I got more and more miserable. And I actually liked myself in the Navy. You know what I mean? It's just like I really enjoyed who I was. Now apart from some of the not bad things, but just like as I was like with cheating and all this sort of stuff. But like, it's just like that was a different version of me. But I generally liked who I was. And then now I didn't. So I'm like, well, fuck this. This is horrible. And so it was just like, so I kind of brought some of that stuff back and just like started being myself again and was just like, well, not like fuck everybody if they don't like it. That whole thing people do is I don't care what people think. It's just like I'm just gonna be authentic or just be myself. It's just like, well, obviously I have to adapt some parts. It just will, but without losing myself. And that was a really big thing as well, and hard. Like again, that's it's hard, and I see a lot of people like you struggle with that too, as being like not really knowing who they are, because in the outside world, I think it's much more difficult to navigate than it is in the military. The military is a breeze compared to like the outside world.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Can I can totally like what you're saying totally makes sense. There's something also about that directness.
Yeah,
Like I'm thinking about when I got to work with my brother, that like that kind of directness in certain situations is going to save somebody's life. And if you can't just be like boom, say it how it is, like things can go sideways really fast.
yeah,
And so like that, being able to step in and one thing with my brother is like he'll never ask somebody to do something that he wouldn't also do, and he'll jump
yeah.
in there like 5 o'clock on Friday, like we're not where we need to be. He'll just jump in there and like stuff just happens, and it's super cool, and then he'll go home to his wife and daughters, and just he's like very gentle and calm. Like it's like
Sure, yeah,
but you need to be able to like dig in and find that. And that's something that I've noticed in the like you're calling it the real world or whatever. It's like often I feel people kind of like dancing around and like tiptoeing around what needs to be said, and then the leadership, whatever the environment is, the leadership isn't there, and it creates like, yeah, it can be dangerous at times, but also just kind of creates this like stagnation
yeah,
where growth can't happen because people aren't being direct or honest about what they're saying. And I mean, I get it. It's hard to say what you want to say without like worrying about how that might impact somebody else. Really, you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, and then that becomes
yeah.
this like very tricky place. you know, yeah.
No, it is. It is, yeah. But I think I had like one mode from like the military, because it was just like it was the only environment I'd grew up in, really. So it was just like I only had one mode. So it was learning to be adaptable as well. You know what I mean? Be
Hmm.
adaptable to environments, and not just be kind of like, again, like I said, it's just being like, well, this is who I am. Like, take it or leave it kind of thing. I think there's a lot of paradoxes in all of this as well. I always see there's a lot of paradoxes in a lot of things that I work with guys with too, and like I put things through the frame of leadership, and it's like it's pretty much all paradoxes, because it's not like black and white and this way or that way. Is like you have to have range, and you have to be able to respond to people differently, and communicate with people differently. And I think a lot of that I would call like, it's, yes, a self-awareness, but it's also like situational and environment awareness as well, which is super important. So I think a lot of the time I would spend time observing people and observing situations, and that would give me like way more information. Like if you like, you kind of like watching people and observing people without them knowing, they'll tell you more about themselves than if you like they're actually speaking to you. And that for me is like a quiet leadership skill that a lot of blokes don't have. It's just like very kind of rah rah one way, and they don't work on having range, and that's I think that's a skill that really needs to be worked on.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that observation thing. I remember somebody talking about like for men when you guys like enter a room of other men, there can be women there too, but you enter a room, there's like a part of your animal brain that automatically is like scanning. I don't know. I don't have all the like technical terms, but
No, I mean,
I'm not scientific at all. My kids are always like
yeah,
a mom story, 100% not backed by science. But
yeah,
anyways, um, where you guys will, and I think like I've seen my brain do this too, but it's like you'll scan the room for like who here can like take care of an emergency? Like, who's got the capacity to handle shit if shit goes down? And it's like an automatic thing that's happening. And like, who's a potential like liability? Like, they might go off the rails or something. Like, we're scanning for this, whether we're conscious of it or not. But if you're actually like leaning back and observing, you're going to pick up a lot more, right? Like,
Yeah.
that sort of whatever it's called, the subconscious mind or the animal mind. But
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's like I'm not overly scientific on that stuff. It's more I like obviously because from the military I learned through experience very well, and then like usually end up kind of like reading the stuff on it afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just that. So I'm like, okay, well then just be more aware of the experiences and conscious of what you're learning from that and taking out of it, and then like that's just the way that I would learn best. But it's like this is why again it's like working a lot on like you work a lot on presence and like even appearance. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, for a guy, if a guy walks in and is in like say he's in really good shape, there's a almost an instant respect point there. It tells you something about someone. Oh, he's obviously very disciplined. He obviously like, respects himself and like values taking care of himself. It kind of tells you a bit like a business card. And as opposed to somebody who walks in like a bit of a slob and like doesn't take care of themselves and like, super overweight or whatever, it's just like no matter what people say, there is a part of that where you do judge that in your own head. Like, of course you do. It's like subconscious or not. But like the thing of like you said about walking in a room, there's like a presence as well. Is this like when people walk in a room and like, sometimes it's the loudest people with the like the bravado and that are just like sometimes they're like probably the least um trustworthy or least secure as opposed to like someone who just kind of like maybe moves slowly, like holds himself well, is maybe a bit quiet, like observational. There's like that that tells you something about someone. So there is and we're all good at that. This is the thing. I think I find a lot of leaders will think that they're getting away with stuff. They're like, oh, people don't know this about me. I'm like, they do. It's just like whether they're aware of it or not, they've got a gut feeling or their sense is like they can feel it. People can feel it. So you can't really hide anything. And like so you really do have to like do a different style of work than just traditional leadership. Is like it has to be about you have to do that like inner work as people call it. You have to do deeper work. You have to work on this stuff that doesn't really get taught in traditional leadership, because like that's actually the most important stuff, because it's how people respond to you has a lot to do with that. And like if you want to get the best out of your team and like like in your family and relationships, your kids, it's why I mostly work on purely self leadership for men. Like I work with guys who are married, kids, and that. But like I don't have children. But like it doesn't matter, because it's like it's leadership, and it's like masculine psychology. So like you just put them together, and it's like you work on the man with that, and it filters out into his relationship and with his kids and in his business and team. It's just like it's a natural byproduct. So it's always start at the roots and build that way, where I think a lot of it's totally the way around.
hmm yeah, absolutely. And it will when it's like universal principles. Almost doesn't matter the environment or whether you have children or not. It's like they're transferable, right? And yeah, I always think that the like easiest way to see how leadership is going is like in the absence of the leader, like what
Yeah.
happens if you leave your kids at home alone for the weekend, or like leave your
Mm.
team while you go away for a week on holiday, or like is like it will show so much about what's going on.
It is. I have a term that I took as well, because like the first, well, I suppose I look back as like the first person I really, I suppose, trained was one of the guys I had working for me just before I left the Navy. So in the last couple of years, I was like a bit more mature, and I'd kind of like was outgrowing my role, and I was just about to leave, and then I was like training guys up for promotion, and the guy I had with me is like, I'd call it lazy leadership, because I was basically not doing anything. I was just like, oh, you want to get promotion? I was like, okay, then it's like you basically do my job, and like I won't tell you what to do and like babysit you. I'll just like put you in the seat and like, I'll watch you and guide you, but then like, I kind of want you to make mistakes as well because like you need to know how to correct them when they happen and no one else is around. And so I kind of like would sit him and get him to do the work, and I had really nothing to do. So I was just like sitting around, but like felt quite lazy and useless. And I think that's a big thing for leaders, like trying to control everything, like get a lot of their proving and self worth filled up through that. And it's not good leadership. It's just like I think sometimes it's like you should feel like you're a little bit of a spare part and a bit useless. Is like, can this all run without me being here? And it's just like, and a lot of leaders get bottlenecked. They bottleneck themselves, trying to control everything and then control people. And then like that's how everything goes to shit. So I kind of took that out as well and just being like, and again, I think now, um, I'd say that yes, that is inner work because a lot of it's you're working with a lot of people's anxiety and stress and again self-worth and like what they think they have to do and then they feel guilty if they're not there all the time and they're on and like what are the guys going to think of them if they're not there and their time off and all this sort of stuff and it can be again because it's like where do they learn it, where do they get trained for it? It's like they don't. But when that's why I always use the frame of leadership, not really like men's work in that, so to speak. Just because it's like I think guys understand that more. To be honest, I did go down those routes of the self development, masculine, feminine dynamics and all that sort of stuff, masculine, feminine. But like a lot of blokes are like, I don't know what the fuck are you talking about, like. Don't understand it. But then like
Yeah.
but then like you talk about you talk it in terms of leadership and frame. Guys are, oh yeah, yeah, I get that. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like a bit of a Trojan horse is like you can get those things in there
Hmm.
without using like what I would call like fluffy terminology or coachy chat that you
Hmm.
get online because you don't need to. It's just like you can use like who's in front of you and okay, what are they going to understand and what are they going to respond to and get and then just use that. And I
Hmm.
just find a lot of guys understand the language of talking about leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love what you're saying about like essentially like leaning back or like giving room to whoever, like when you were training someone, giving them room. Or I find that's been one of the like most delicate dances as a mother is just like like I'm fairly
Yeah.
hands off. I'm like not a helicopter parent,
Yeah.
but there's like that. Yeah, it's just interesting. And then also living in our society that has like all these like age, when you're this old, then you're going to be old enough to do this thing. And like realizing that for my sons, like that often wasn't the case. Like they were ready for a lot more responsibility at a
Mhm.
younger age than what is like required or like set as a standard. And so it's like, yeah, it's an interesting dance, but recognizing that like leaning back or not even necessarily leaning back, but I mean, it's even like that with like toddlers where they're learning to climb at the playground, for example. If you're constantly there, like spotting them and like lifting that up, you're basically giving them the message like, you can't do this without me. Whereas if you're kind of like off on the side doing your own thing and they're doing their thing, like maybe they're going to fall, but they're going to be okay. Like it's yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like you're saying as well. It's the same like with parenthood as well. It's like it's you're in a leadership role, but
Mhm.
like you said, it's like that differs if it does differ if you're a woman.
Mhm.
It's like why I work with men is because like I'm a man. The environments I've been in, the kind of struggles I've been through is just like, well, my best work's going to be with men because I'm a man and I understand men, and they have the same things I do. It's like it's not fucking rocket science. It's not like we all have different stuff. It's pretty much the same. But then like for you as a mom, like three boys and like or whatever, it's just like it's still leadership. But like I said, it's like and it's challenging whatever leadership role you're in. It's like it's challenging to navigate. And like, what's best to do is just like I say, the paradox is like what's best to do is just like, and like I said, if you over parent your kids, is just like they tend to kind of grow up to be quite soft and lack the resilience and self-reliance and confidence, because you're kind of doing stuff for them instead of like you can do that. And it's the same in like, in a business. It's just like people like over control people and micromanage. Is like you're not getting the best out of people at all.
Mhm.
It's just in, like you say, it's just the range, right? Adapting that to whatever environment you're in. Like you said, your brother, when he's at the construction site, is this like you're like, oh shit, can you like speak to people like that? Is this is that required? And he goes home to his girls and he's like completely different. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like if a guy has daughters, if a guy has sons, it's just like you're leading differently because they need something different.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. When I first started hosting these podcasts, my youngest son was about 13 or 12. And one day we were driving home and he suddenly was like, I want to record a podcast right now with you about, he started talking about how he's going to be a dad when he becomes a dad and like everything that he needs to know. It's recorded. It's like if he decides he wants to like make it public at some point when he's older, he can. Anyways, 40 minutes of talking about what he's going to be, how he's going to be a dad to sons. No problem. He had it all figured out. And then he was like, I guess I should talk about being a dad to a daughter. And he was like, I'm going to need your help on this. It was so funny. I was like, you'll be fine. He's a very warm and loving man, but like, or young man, but like, it just made me laugh. Like he knew that he recognized that it was going to be different how he was going to parent sons and daughters, and that he didn't, as of yet, have a lot of experience
Yeah.
with that. But yeah.
I think a lot of it's is coming back to like natural instincts, getting like for men is like getting men back into their natural instincts, obviously adapted for the modern world. And that's it is, it's like getting you back to your nature, because like guys are just so disconnected from that. It's like, again, it's like why you do things like the Arctic or do stuff in the mountains and that, because it's like it's kind of like a rites of passage without saying it's a rite of passage. You know what I mean? It's like it's an adventure or leading edge experience or something like this, but like really, it's a rite of passage for guys.
Mhm.
It's because like most men have never had that, and it's
Mhm.
part of masculine development that men don't have. So it's, again, it's like you're could be 50 years old and like super successful in business, but really inside you're still a boy,
Mhm.
because you've not had that psychological development that like you need to go through. You need to go through these stages, and if you don't go through those, it's like you're going to be stuck in something, but you've got no clue, and then you make it about you being a piece of shit or worthless or like you know what I mean? It's just like your confidence is crap, your self-esteem's rubbish, and like you can't lead and navigate in a world like you want to be and kind of like you need to be
Mhm.
as a guy. And it's like is there's natural kind of there's natural developmental stages for that for guys. It's like there is a map and a trail that like I don't think you should be like boxed into like a rigid structure with that, because like again, guys, we all differ as well, like slightly different in kind of like how we present our masculinity and how we lead. And it's like really finding out what their um natural part of that is, and like kind of like, okay, then you build a map from around that. So it's not trying to like, I'm not trying to make everyone like a military dude that goes like to the Arctic and or has been on sinking ships and loves it, or goes on endurance events in the mountains. I'm like, no, it's like that's me. That's what I love. But like, you need to do something. Like you like
Mhm.
jujitsu, right? It's just like what? Like, who gives a shit? Whatever the fuck it is like you need to do something that helps you tap into those natural instincts.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is what's so beautiful too about being in those like group dynamics, whether it's a construction site or tree planting or jujitsu or the
Yeah.
environments you're talking about, is like also seeing seeing the different strengths of the individuals. Like thinking about my brother's construction crew, like just and also like his ability to like see people's strengths and gifts and like give them tasks. I remember watching one guy be like, "No, I can't drive that truck." Like literally like the fighting my brother on it. Like, I can't do this, it's too hard. And then like he totally did it. And like now he that's a part of what he does. But like having environments where you get to see what your role is and it and environments that I think part of what men and women struggle with right now is that so much of our lives is like environments that are essentially like against your instincts. So it's like it's not an environment where you get to feel connected to those instincts, but they're always there. Like we're
Yeah.
always aware that like whatever the power goes out and the world ends, like will we be able to survive? Like I think that's still there.
Yeah.
Um,
100%. And like you get a bunch of guys together, like with no women around. It's just like a completely different environment.
yeah.
Like the amount of like you say, you think you hate each other, the amount of shit talking, stupidness, like immaturity in a sense of like the humor and stuff like that. But that's a really good part of being a guy, and we're like in that way we're quite simple. But again, like so many guys haven't been around that. I think a lot of the thing for a lot of men, they haven't been around groups of guys, and they get intimidated by
Mhm,
guys that maybe I don't know how you'd explain that, like more masculine, um, so to speak, or more forward and outgoing, because it's like it reflects against something that they've not tapped into, and it's like it seems intimidating, and they've been shamed for that, or they shame that part of themselves. So it's like they put that out onto other guys, but like one of the big things I find is like guys getting themselves over that line and putting themselves around a group of guys where you're tapping into those natural instincts is one of the most important things you can do. But guys isolate, quite lonely now. They have that kind of anxiety and intimidation factor. We've had loads of guys with that. We've had guys that are like guys that are gay. Like in my, I used to have a men's group in Ibiza with a friend Callum when I was there, and like we had a gay guy come, and he's like one of the top dogs there now. And like before, he's like, God, when I first came, he's like, I didn't want to come because you were like these like ripped guys, and like I was gay, and I was like, is that going to be a problem? And like because he used to get bullied and stuff like this. But then he says, when I came, you just didn't care, and it's just
mhm,
like you welcomed me, you made me feel really comfortable, like you took the piss out of me, and you pushed me and these sorts of things. So I think that's one of the biggest lines for a lot of guys to get over is like you need to be in an environment of other men, but you not just it's not just going down to a bar with your mates to drink. It's like if you really want to like go into that developmental side as a man, is like you got to find guys that are doing that.
mhm.
Guys down the bar having a drink is like that's cool, yeah, that's a social connection. But like if you want to, for me, I'm like these like I always want to be improving and getting better just because you can. So like why wouldn't you? So you want to be around other guys like that, but it's intimidating for a lot of guys until you get in there and then like you feel oh everyone's cool. It's like this is great.
Totally. Well, I think also like we've evolved, our technology has evolved, our lives have evolved, but we're still very much like biologically or instinctually
Yeah,
how we were when we were hunter gatherers, and men wouldn't have carried the burden of being like providers, protectors, etc. on like individually or on their own. It's like as a group, right? You go out and like I always think about hunting bison for some reason, but like go out and hunt bison usually with a group, and there's that's so different than like a lot of guys today are like figuring everything out on their own and like
yeah,
you know what I mean? They're holding it all on their own. There's nobody really that they can I call it bro out with, but like there's nobody that they're broing out with like you're talking about. And
mm,
then that can become like a really yeah isolated environment and um, I don't know, I think there's such an important element of like human evolution in what you're talking about too, and like the like now we call it this like rites of passage because it used to just be like a natural part of life where you're like, well, we
Yeah.
need to go get a bison. Like it wasn't like a an intellectualized thing, right? It was just something that
Right.
happened. And but yeah, I think like without that, there's that sort of like a lot of that I think is contributing to like anxiety, depression, isolation, disconnection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, like for women, it's like, you get a period when you're like, you're coming into your teens or whatever, and then it's like, okay, I'm a woman now because I can have babies, I can give birth. This is like a almost ceremonial rites of passage for women or girls, and then like for guys, there isn't one anymore.
Mhm.
And it's not like getting a driver license or turning 18 or having a beer or anything like that. It's just like there isn't one. Used to be like you'd get like, well, you see in like in the movie 300, right, where he gets, the boy gets sent out to survive in the wilderness
Yeah.
and face darkness, and like where he might not come back. Obviously, that's an extreme, but it's like, then he comes back and he's then um, introduced into the group of men and like taken away from his mom, and
Mhm.
it's like guys don't have that. They a lot of them get married, and then like that she becomes the mom in
Mhm.
some ways, and it's really bad because it's like it's kind of like no one's at fault, but it's just like, yeah, but it's your responsibility to like you've got to do that work. You've got to, because it's like if you don't, it's just like life's just fucking way harder, and it's like it's challenging as it is, you know what I mean? It's like, I get stress, I get anxious, is like I have doubt, I have fear, all this sort of stuff, but it's just like, but I don't see those things as a big deal because like you have those things in the military, and like you kind of train them, so to speak, as not to be a, you don't learn that that's all those things. It's like, I think it's only when self-development shoves these things down your neck and like say there's like they're bad things and stuff. It's like, it's not. It depends what meaning you apply to it, but you need to have another part of yourself that you train that's stronger than that. In my kind of belief system with that, and like really like simplify it as much as possible. But
Mhm.
but it's like, yeah, I tell guys that I work with, I'm like, yeah, I still have that. It's just like it kind of like it's you kind of making things not a big deal that a lot of guys have internalized as like a really big deal, and like something's wrong with me because guys think we're like the lone survivor with all that stuff, and it's just like no other guys have this. I can't say anything about this because if I do, then like I'm the weak one and something's wrong with me, and I can't expose that. I can't expose myself, and it's like it's just a story that's like is really needs to die, to be honest, because it's like I think when I there's a thing started saying to guys, you could just see they're kind of like shoulders drop, and it's like, and so look, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just like I just say to it, it's like you're just undertrained and underdeveloped. Like that's it. It's just like, and and explain kind of like why and probably like where they're at and like what they miss and what they're missing, etc. It just makes sense. It's just trying to
Mhm.
keep things in men language and keep things simplified, because yes, we are complex as well, and there's a lot of stuff to go into that, and it's challenging work, etc. But like you need to take that kind of heaviness and extra stress and extra anxiety that you don't need to carry, because there's enough of that already, and just be like, look, just chill the fuck out. It's like it's that's normal for like where you're at, and like it's all good, and like most of the guys have that too, so it's not just you. You're not special.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, undertrained and underdeveloped. That's like such a simplification, right? Of just like
Yeah.
and somehow crossing that bridge of like having those conversations for men that you're not alone, like because it does. I mean, men are like exponentially more likely to commit suicide than women, right? There's a whole dark side of this that's
Well,
not, I think, not a lot of awareness culturally. And I think overall right now, the way our society is structured, it's like very hard on it's like soft on the body and hard on the soul. And like, especially for men, it's like very, isolating. Did you ever read, this is a long shot, but did you ever read the book The Continuum Concept by Jean Liedloff? No, it's like it's funny, this book is classified in the like parenting section, but
Okay.
in my experience reading it, it's actually about like warrior class in the Amazon. But it's an anthropologist from Europe. She goes to the Amazon, lives with a tribe who live as they lived 2000 years ago. And it's fascinating to read. Like, I love the stories of, they're carrying boats over like really fast moving rapids. Like they're on a voyage, and like there are people who are like slipping and falling and their shins are getting all sliced up and they're just laughing. Like they have this innate joy of like their body's ability to heal, this
Yeah.
innate joy around their strength. There's like another one of my favorite stories is about like an 11-year-old boy who gets shot by an arrow because the kids are all doing like bow and arrow practice, and something goes awry, and there's no like, we need to sit down and talk about this. Like, it's just obvious, like somebody screwed up, everybody learned from it. He comes to the European woman and he's like, hey, can you help me with this? And she's like, she heals the wound or like whatever, does her thing, and tells him to take a break, like don't train for a while. 10 minutes later, he's back to bow and arrow practice, but the adults don't interfere. There's like, but I think about it, I love this book so much because it's what's present in their culture is true danger all the time. They live in a natural environment that's actually very unforgiving. And
Mhm.
so as a group, they're like connected to their instincts. They don't have any intellectualization around what is it to be a man or a woman or this, that, or the other. It's just like they actually literally just work together, because if they don't, they're going to die. It's like there's
Yeah.
something so simplifying about it. And like one of my favorite parts of her like telling the story is like, to this group of people, the idea that you would write a book about parenting, for example, or like anything, is just like such a constraint. Like it's so far from their reality that somebody would like teach you how to be a human. It's like, anyways, I'm obsessed with this book.
No, I like that. Is yeah, because I use adventure a lot for like some of my guys like do expeditions and stuff as well. And like part of that is like you say, it's the kind of rites of passage, but also it's like guys like they kill off that adventure side of them, and they're like, kids, housework, and like I'm just like, I'm a good man because I sacrificed myself for all of this. And like I don't believe that. I feel like no, it's like you, like in a sense, like put yourself first in the sense of like, you kind of train and develop yourself to be the best you possibly can, and then everyone else gets that as a byproduct. And like, don't they deserve the best that you have to give? And that's a real coin flip for a lot of guys too, because it's like they're seen as selfish to put yourself first, but it's like in context, it's actually really important. And part of that is like go on an adventure, and the whole point of adventure is it's like there's uncertainty, there's danger, there's risk. It's not like some very well planned out kind of hike in the woods or in a mountain somewhere that's just like a nice little jolly on a Sunday. It's like no, it's just like well, you're gonna get bashed up, you're gonna get lost, you're gonna get a wrong way, you're gonna have to like you know maybe do some sketchy stuff, but it's like I always say it's like dangerous things done carefully. But like guys need that. Like I've just again, it's like experience, right? It's like it's not a study, read. It's just like it's experience, and like it's where guys need that so much, and they don't have it anymore. And
Mhm.
it's kind of it really that's a big part of what really weakens and softens men as well.
I will say that like I need that. And so I can only
Yeah,
imagine on the
yeah,
scale, like if I need that, I've had 4 kids, uh, like how much do guys need it if I know that I need, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would love
100%.
to ask you, well, okay, I often like to ask on this podcast. I don't have like a set of questions, obviously, but
Sure.
I often like to ask like, what's the hardest thing you've ever been through? So that's kind of the question that I usually ask. I'm gonna let you choose. um, but I also was thinking to ask you like if you can think of like one of the most exciting or challenging adventures that you ever been on. So choose one of those, and we'll go
Well,
there.
let's do both.
Okay, cool.
So the hardest thing that I've ever been through was after leaving the Navy, and I had the identity crisis. Like I was honestly like so scared and so afraid, and like a very brief moment got to the point of like suicidal thoughts. Like for a very brief moment, and then I was like, "What the fuck?" And it never happened again after that. I was just like, "Fucking no, we're not going there. Never getting there again." And that was the hands down the scariest ever. But like, I can't even explain it in words how like gut wrenching, like horribly anxiety fueled fear that was. It was just the worst. But also it was also a good thing as well because it kind of cracked me open too. So two-sided coin. Um, and the best adventure, fucking hell.
Can I ask one quick thing before we jump onto the
Sure.
best adventure? Do you remember specifically what the fear was like when you like had that moment of like suicidal thoughts? Like, do you remember specifically what that fear was? If you can pinpoint.
I think there's like an accumulation of like after leaving the military over a couple of years, kind of like and losing like a long-term relationship, my house. So like basically losing all the things I identified with out of in the real world away from the military because I'd lost that. And it felt like I was losing everything else too. And just like not a clue, not feeling like I had a clue who I was or what I was doing. But I really think that was like the cracking open. Do you know, it's like when you kind of go, you go deeper, you do deeper work on that. It was really, I think, kind of shedding away things. Actually, that isn't who you are. Like this is who you are, but you've got to come and like really go on that journey to discover that. So I think it was that kind of like that no man's land. That's like for men, it's a lot of that's like it's like the dark cave and like slaying your dragons, so to speak, in terms of like Jungian terms, and it's fucking scary.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and almost well, sounds like identity grief as well. Of like, I
yeah,
have this identity of like this is everything who I am, and that doesn't exist anymore. So now all those dragons are going to come out to show their head.
yeah. And then the thing is now that still happens now, right? It's just like it's having those identity shifts. And the more I kind of like my life grows and like go down different paths, let certain things go and move into new directions, still have those identity sheds that go on, but like the first one's the worst because I got no you got no idea what's going on. Like now it's kind of like I understand this process. Sometimes it's still a challenge and it's like it feels difficult because it's that psychologically of like parts of you trying to like grasp on for dear life, and that's that it intensifies a lot of those kind of feelings and like kind of like claw you back in. But now it's like I understand that of like I actually see it as a positive of like when that happens I know, oh, this means I'm kind of like I'm kind of I'm growing out of that phase and I'm growing into something different, and it's just like those pieces need to fuck off basically.
But you have the training. You did the training in that moment, so now you know how to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you go through those same cycles, but it's just like you doesn't mean they're not challenging, but like you just understand it better, and like I think you can handle it in a much better way.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to ask that.
No, no
And
worries.
yeah, I would love to hear the most exciting or most challenging adventure.
To be honest, I don't think I could pick one because there've been like so many, but I I think it is the ones I think where it's like the plan just goes out the window. Like if you have a plan to to do something, you're going somewhere, going to do something, and then that plan goes out the window, like you get lost, like something happens. Um, they're always the best ones. You remember, it's not the ones that like again, it's like you went all smoothly, you did this nice hike or whatever. It's the ones where like you had to figure stuff out, or you got lost, or you had to work together as a group. Like I've been lost on a mountain once in the dark, not on a path, with like a torch of an iPhone, and I was like, "We're getting off this mountain," and we managed to get off there like 2 o'clock in the morning. Um, and that was kind of a tough one, but it's like, again, like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? You sleep on a mountain, and then when it's light, you just figure it out. So there's that. There's like, I had to get a guy helicopter off a mountain once, helicopter rescue, because he had this like random, like he didn't even know he had it, some random medical thing, off the mountain, and he was just like completely cramped up and like was being sick. It wasn't heat stroke or exhaustion or anything like that, because he weren't doing anything crazy. And I had to get him helicoptered off a mountain, and I thanked him because I got a free helicopter ride for him. Again, we had a laugh, like a what we'd see as like a crisis situation. Is just like he's just kind of making a joke and having a laugh about it, because it's like you're calm, you know what to do, you handle it, it's all good. But generally the ones where you kind of you get lost, or even like when you're just with your mates and you're going off adventuring and that, and you're just cutting everything out, and you're just having such fun and such a good time and such a laugh, that it's just like that's really important. And it's what I use it a lot with my clients now, because when I first came to Malaga, that's what I started off going doing. I was like, I was not in a great place still, but the environment I was in was fantastic, and I just started going off in the mountains, and like that was really good for me without realizing. I didn't realize it until I was like, other people said, "Can I come with you?" And then after like a few times them coming, because we used to go every week, I'd start seeing changes in them. Like even like their physical appearance would change. Their like confidence and drive would change. They'd be kind of like, they're taking more risks in their normal life. It's like they're changing up their diet. They stop going out drinking, and stuff like this. But without not me kind of preaching to them or saying anything like that, just naturally. So I was like, there's something in this simplicity that is like really really helpful for people. Again, it's like that whole thing of like, again, it's like coming back to your nature and stuff, is like, go do crazy cool shit in the mountains and adventures and risk taking and a bit of danger. It's just like it works.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's so simple, right? I think that's the
It,
interesting thing.
it can be, yeah. I think there's a I think when people say like we oversimplify things, is like it can be simple in terms of like setting up your structure and environment. And there's still obviously a lot of like where we're quite complex humans, and like, even the thing of like, you could be very switched on, and on paper life could be fantastic, but you still hit dark times and shit hits the fan and stuff, and like, there's um so I think, but I think that's the reason to keep things as simple as possible.
Mhm.
'Cause I think a lot of stuff, I think a lot of stuff is overcomplicated. Like that's what I find with working with guys too, is just like this. I think there's a principle in that simplicity that, again, I use and I take from the military as well. Is just like where that's part of the things, like you want to keep everything as simple as possible. But again, you don't get taught, so keep things as simple as possible, and that means actually like, cutting a lot of the fat and trimming a lot of the shit out that's distracting, and like taking your attention and energy away from things that are actually important, and that you want to focus on, and that, and just kind of like, I think, simplifying your life, but also your your mentality in how you approach things. And that's easier said than done, because I think that's part of the training for the mind as well, is because I know I can be as well. We can overcomplicate things, add complexity, make things harder than they need to be, because things can't be easy, um, and things can't be that simple. But it's actually sometimes I find it's the simple approach is the most direct, and the most direct means you have to do the thing that you don't want to do, you'd rather avoid is the scariest. So it's why we make things complicated and put things in a way and add complexity. So again, paradoxes in everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that I was thinking when you're talking about the simplicity part, I was thinking about like I've had a handful of different people on this podcast who all have said at one point how much they thrive in chaos. Like if there's an emergency, they're fine. They know
Yeah,
exactly what to do. They know, and that's because in that moment there's an like a simplification process
yeah,
that happens in your brain where you're not thinking about all the extra. You're just, and that's something I think is very hard to do in like the sort of mundane life or the everyday life to, have that level of focus and certainty and confidence. Even I've had different men
mm,
speak about that of like they feel really confident if there's an emergency. Everyday life is really hard, and that's an interesting thing. um
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this might be it. We might already be touching on it, but is there anything that you like say to yourself or have found to be really useful to like persevere or get through challenging times? Like, is there something that you come back to, like a philosophy or something
Um,
on?
there's probably a couple of things in this. The first thing, hands down, is master the basics, and this is like it infuriates me because every guy will tell you they fucking know this, but like most guys I've worked with that are like pretty goddamn successful, they're not doing it. They can tell you about it and they know it, and it's just like I'm like, yeah, but you're not doing that. You're telling me about it, like you know it, but you're not doing it. And there's always like a laugh because it's like, oh shit, yeah. It's just like, I'm talking about it, but I'm not doing it. Hence, like I'm very like action orientated. I don't like a lot of talking.
Mhm.
Um, but there's that. It's like master the basics really well. You know what I mean? It's just like, and that for me is always like you take care of yourself in terms of like your body. But I always go like mental first. So like, don't just go to the gym and like train to look good. Do it for the mental side of things. So do things that are mentally hard. Um, which I don't, to be honest with you, is like this might be a different opinion, but I don't think the gym's that hard. Like go into an air conditioned gym with like shiny, smooth bars and stuff, and like you could have a hard session for like 40 minutes, but you know what I mean? Come on. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, go do something that's like mentally hard. Like go do a Spartan race. You know what I mean? As well, go train for that. Like put something in your calendar like that that's like kind of scares you a bit, so you have to prepare for it and train for it, which keep you more disciplined and more consistent. But like always keep those basics, those little simple things, because like I said, is like when challenges come and shit hits the fan, is like they're your saving grace, like first and last lines of defense. But people, what I see for a lot of obviously just from experience of the guys I work with, it's the people do those when the thing happens, not consistently beforehand. So that's what I find. I use that all the time. Um, and also try and predict as well. Try and predict challenges and obstacles. You can't predict all of them, but
Mhm.
like you try and predict potential obstacles and challenges. Then you can build them into a plan and structure and prepare them. It's like there's a thing in the military called there's a book on it called like Left of Bang. So it's about kind of like looking for signs, and I actually kind of built a bit of a system around this for spotting those really subtle signs that you're kind of drifting or you're going off course, and then the little things that we don't pay attention to. I don't know about women, but especially as guys, like you say you miss workouts for a week, you kind of like your sleep's off. Is like your vices kind of kick back in? Is like you kind of like you withdrawing and isolating a little bit? Like whatever they are, just like the little things is like you need to be able to spot them as soon as possible. Because it's like it's never when something cracks in you or you sabotage something or blow something up. It's never don't look at the incident. It's like look at all the things leading up to the incident. So
Mhm.
it's like another thing I'd say is creating a buffer between you and pressure and cracking, and you can actually do that. And again, that's something that you take from the military. It's again because it's high stakes and people get killed. So don't look at the incident. Look at all the things before the incident, and that's where you train, and that's what you look for. But people wait until shit's gone south until you do something about it.
Mhm.
They're probably my biggest things, to be honest.
Yeah. 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 Like the sweat in training so you don't bleed in battle sort of expression, but more
Yeah,
complex than that. Yeah.
it doesn't. It's not actually that complex. It's like you know, again another military saying is like fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Is just and again, there's paradoxes because I'm like big on action. Is just like just take action and you'll get clarity coming from action and you'll get feedback and you use the feedback to kind of get more clarity, make decisions, blah blah blah. But you have to train that. But then there's also another side of like where you also at the same time you need to be like preparing because something's going to happen, like guaranteed, like 100% guaranteed, especially these days. So
Mhm.
it's like is also making sure that you're prepared. But that's a mentality thing, and obviously, like coming from the military, that makes sense. You've been on a sinking warship, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But to somebody who's not been in environments like that, they'll have no clue.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I've only competed twice in jujitsu, but I love watching like the team prepare or like being part of
Yeah.
that. And because it's the same format as what you're talking about, where people are like looking at their game, what do they want to improve? They'll realize, oh, this is a hole in my game. Like, can you help me practice this? Whatever it
Mm.
is, takedowns or defending a certain attack, whatever, and then go compete inevitably in that moment of competition, see all the holes in your game all over again, new opponent, whatever, and then back to training. Like, it's always improving on
Yeah.
being able to, um,
Even for a woman, it's just like you were saying that, it's just like with jujitsu, is like, on a more high stakes kind of scenario, is just like, is like you're walking in the streets late at night and like he's like you get attacked or grabbed by a guy.
mhm,
That's like, I mean, because that's an innate fear for women, isn't it, as well? It's just like it's walking in the dark if there's men around. I think it's a natural, normal kind of bit of fear to have. But like, it's like, wouldn't you want to, instead of just hoping that would never happen, which obviously we hope that never happens, but like, wouldn't you want it to have something in terms of preparation or some skill or tools to be able to like, defend yourself in that situation? And
mhm,
this is the thing. So like, even with that, it's just like where it's a bit, I suppose, a bit of a different scenario, but like where you'd probably want to roll with like some of the guys in there to get a good sense of what it's like to actually like tussle with a guy if you're ever in that situation. So it's just an example of that by using something else or something that you're doing is just like it's because it gives you, and even with that, it gives you an extra sense of like confidence and self-assuredness if you're training something that's very real,
mhm,
like, and very raw, and like obviously we hope never happens, but it's a possibility. um,
mhm,
but I think people are naive into thinking like things are never going to happen to me. I'm like,
mhm.
yeah, that's a good kind of a mentality to have, but it's also a little bit naive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly trained with guys. Like,
Yeah,
still way more men in jiu-jitsu than women. But
yeah,
it also have found like there have been a few times where there's been sort of like something aggressive happening like between two people on the street, or like moments like that where you're kind of like, oh no, am I gonna need to get involved? It's what I find overall is just like a different level of um I mean, for me, there's still like, absolutely, I'm going to avoid that at all costs. Like, I
Yeah,
do not want to jump in and help out if I have to. But there's like, well, I have like a small toolkit now. Like, I've been training for 4 years, 4.5 years. I have a
yeah.
small toolkit of like, okay, if I can like do this, this, and this, I might be able to like prevent somebody from doing more damage or whatever. Like it's I don't have a I think sometimes people train martial arts and then they're like, "Oh, I'm ready now." Like I don't feel that way. But it gives me a little bit of like a calm confidence. There've been a few scenarios like that where again, it wasn't something I was involved in, but just like police had been called and you're just kind of wondering like, is this going to stay under control till the police arrive? And just a different feeling of like, okay, if I need to, I have some skills. I probably can like get this person into a position where they can't move their body until the police come. Like that's what goes on in
Well,
my
yeah,
mind. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Um, as we're like maybe bringing this conversation to a close today, is there anything else that you want to share about your experiences, about adventures you have coming up?
Um, Not really. I don't have anything solid um planned right now. I have some stuff for a private group going on, but anything to share to finish off? Um, I don't know really. I think we've talked about a lot of the things that I would probably say, to be honest.
Totally. Yeah. Sometimes I ask like if there's anything that you would say to yourself of like if you were 15 or 20 or like a younger man, any words of wisdom you would give to your younger self?
Um, I'd probably say to like me going into the military is to take more advantage of the opportunities and be more aware of what you're learning and get as many skills as you possibly can. Because obviously I got a lot, but there's also a lot of opportunities that I could have taken and I didn't because I was just immature. I just wanted to get drunk and go out, which was also a very very fun time and have good memories. But I think that because I'd still think I'd like to have done the same thing, but just take more advantage of the opportunities.
Mhm. It's cool. I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm really glad that we got to do this.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been really fun. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm gonna close out the recording and then you and I can talk for a few minutes before you go, if that sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Craig.